Welcome to Bigfoot Society. What follows is a special teaser of a members-only episode that'll be releasing today, a conversation with Tracy about his about 40 years of Bigfoot encounters in southern Missouri. There's some really wild stuff in here. You'll be hearing that teaser in a bit, but before we do, I want to do a quick shout out to a few people that have sent some coffees my way. Special thank you to Big Spoon for buying me a coffee. He says, great job, man. Thank you. Special thank you to Dan for buying a coffee as well. He says, hello from Dan, the guy you interviewed that followed the Knox before until he found a PO'd Sasquatch. Thank you, Dan. If you'd like to help Bigfoot Society one time, you can buy me a coffee over at buymeacoffee.com/Bigfoot Society. It helps with the upcoming air travel and traveling around to get interviews. Helps me get something to drink or eat along the way. Appreciate that. If you want to hear the full interview, which is almost 2 hours long, you can go over to patreon.com/the Bigfoot Society, become a supporting member there, or you can become a YouTube channel member as well. Hear the whole interview there. Enjoy this preview of today's members only episode, and let's get on with the show.
So we're back to Taum Sauk Mountain again. May of 2007, I decided to do a solo camp. So I set up in that same campsite from the previous year, September 2006, but I'm by myself this time. And I get there, I set up camp. There's no one else in the campsite. I see a tent set up, but there's no car there. And I kind of like walk by and look, and the door's open. There's nobody in the tent. I don't really know what's going on. From as far as I know, nobody ever even showed up to the tent, which I didn't think was super unusual because that Ozark Trail goes not too far right behind that. And there will be people that hike that and then come in and set up their tent in the campground. And, you know, maybe do like some other hikes and come back to it or whatever. So I never ended up figuring out what happened with that. There's just a tent with nobody in it. But otherwise, there's nobody in the whole campground. I'm the only one there. So I remember like I was going to sleep on an air mattress, and I forgot the inflator. So I had to blow that thing up with, by hand with my mouth. And usually I pick up like the sticks and start a fire, but like after doing that, I didn't even feel like it. Generally, I clean up my campground of all the twigs to start the fire with, and that's important for later. That took up so much daylight that I'm kind of having to use a lantern to cook at night, and I end up burning. I tried to make some kind of macaroni and cheese, and I end up burning it, and so I only get about half of it, and the other half is stuck to this metal bowl that I cooked it in. So by the time I get that eat, I'm ready to go to bed, and I knew I was going to get marauded by raccoons. You do every time, but I left all that stuff out, and I was just like, if they wake me up, no big deal. So sure enough, about midnight, the raccoons come by. They grab that bowl, just rattling around for 10 minutes or whatever. That burnt macaroni and cheese really puts out a stink. So I'm sure everything in the wood can smell it. So once all that's done, I go back to sleep. Well, about 4 o'clock in the morning, I wake up to, I don't know how to explain it any other different than like, sounds like a person walking. It's like bipedal footsteps. And once they get close to my tent, twigs start snapping. The ones I didn't pick up to make a fire with. So these twigs start snapping, and I'm like, what is going on? So it just gets closer and closer, and then I feel my tent just kind of come up off of the ground. Like it kicked my tent at the corner, and not super hard, but like enough to pull the stake out. And at that point I was just like, oh boy, what do we got here? So there was silence I can always maintain my silence. And there's just silence, kind of a little pause of about 5 seconds. And then I hear the footsteps start coming around. And I'm like, if it comes to the front of my tent, I have a gun. I was like, if this thing's, whatever it is, a person, whatever, starts messing with me, it's going to be bad for him. Stops again. I may have made a little bit of a noise. Stops again for a little bit. Then I hear it going over and start messing with that bowl and like other utensils I left out. And I was like, this isn't, it's everything runs through your mind. What could this be? Is this another raccoon? And I was like, there's no way this is a raccoon snapping all these twigs, walking on 2 feet or anything like that. So I'm up the rest of the night till daylight. And I get up, and I thought my cooler would have gone through and everything. Wasn't. And so in thinking about that afterwards, I was like, why wouldn't whatever this was, raid my cooler? Well, I think it smelled the burnt macaroni and cheese, and it just went for that. What I do with my coolers is usually I don't do anything with them after I go camping and they get a little nasty. So I bleach them out and real good. Use a lot of disinfectant on them. And I don't know, maybe it couldn't smell food in it because of that. I would think if it just knows what a cooler is by sight, it would do that. But I don't guess this one did or whatever. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a Bigfoot, because the next morning I got up, I intended to do a hike, about a 5-mile hike. And I just felt I was followed the whole way, at least down off of the mountain. I didn't feel like it followed me back up, but it went down into the valley that I went down into with me, I'm pretty sure. Because I just had that sneaky, something's watching me feeling that whole time. And then not the way back. So that was a pretty intense thing to get your tent kicked.
Oh yeah, I don't know how I would. Man, I don't think I could. That would be hard to deal with. You're inside the tent, it gets kicked enough so that the steak starts to come out, dude. That's
yeah. I checked that the next morning, and the steak was up out of the ground. Yeah.
Did you see any footprints around or anything like that?
No. The way they do their campsites there is they bring in a lot of sand and chipped up rock, gravel.
Okay.
And so, no, not really. And it was for May, it was kind of dry. It did rain that morning. My whole hike was drizzled on, but that's kind of after the fact. But it really didn't rain enough to soften the ground for footprints anyway. But anyway, in November of 2000, I'm back in Howell County to the property again. So for a couple of years, I'm just going Taum Sauk Mountain, Howell County is where I'm having my stuff. We actually had footprints. I was working a job at the time, so I was only going on weekends. So I went the first weekend, and I would talk about Bigfoot. I didn't really care. I'd get some guff over it. But I would talk about it. Well, anyway, I come back the second weekend, and they're like, hey, one of the guys, one of my other cousins, is he found 4 footprints over. There's this little pond in the middle of the woods. There's a little clay dam that somebody built and created this little pond. It's not big, maybe 20 feet across, 25 feet across, something like that. And that year, one of my cousins works for U.S. Forestry, actually. And he said that we were in a 50-year drought in that area at that time. So that made sense to me that a Bigfoot would come up to that little pond, because those rivers, both the rivers there are what's called, and here we're getting into a little geology here, are what's called losing streams, which means they're in limestone, and basically the rock under the river is so cavernous that unless there's enough flow to fill all of that up, it doesn't flow on the surface. So you have to have a pretty good rainfall at that point in the river. Now, on downstream, on the 11 point, there's some big, fairly good-sized springs that keep it flowing constantly. But there, you'll end up, it's dry bed a lot of the time. So there, the animals aren't getting their water out of the rivers in times like that. There's little seep springs around. They'll just create like a little 5-foot pool or something. But anyway, we had footprints on this pond just up in the middle of the woods, because that's where things were coming for their water. And so they told me that, and I was excited about it. So I was like, I'll go over there tonight. So it's probably like 10 at night. I grab a flashlight. I go over there. I had no idea what to expect. I didn't have the right tools. Found out the next day I had to have a rake to rake the leaves off. The leaves had like fallen in that week between the 2 weekends. And but I go over there the night before, and it's pretty close to the driveway of my other cousin's cabin. And I'm walking down the gravel road, and as soon as I step off into the leaves, I hear something start to move. Just, maybe 50 feet away from me. So all I've got is like a little Petzl headlamp, not particularly bright. And it's not even one of these, it wasn't even one of these newer ones with the, it's one of the old bulb kind. So I'm like, I wonder what that is. I'm thinking maybe deer or something. So I take a few more cautious steps, and every step I took, it took a step back away from me. And so I would advance a little bit, and then I would like retreat a little bit, and it would do the same thing. It would, if I move forward, it would move back. And then if I move back, it would move forward again.
Please take a minute to help out the show by subscribing on YouTube, making sure you hit the bell so you don't miss any notifications, and share the episode on YouTube with a friend. Also, if you're listening to us on a podcast, thank you so much. Make sure that you're subscribed, share the show with a friend. Really, it's all about sharing the show wherever you can. If you've had a Bigfoot encounter related to the following or know someone who has, please reach out to me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com or pass on my email. Here's a list. All right, I'm going to use this space this week to announce that I'll be at the Sasquatch Summerfest in Oak Ridge, Oregon as an attender. I won't be presenting or anything, but I'll be hanging out, trying to interview people that have had Bigfoot encounters. If you're from the Oak Ridge, Oregon area or surrounding and you've had a Bigfoot experience, please contact me directly, bigfootsociety@gmail.com. Also, Priscilla was nice enough that if you get your tickets through SasquatchSummerfest.com and use code Bigfoot Society, you can get 50% off the cost of your tickets, which is a big amount. So code Bigfoot Society to get 50% off your tickets, SasquatchSummerfest.com, and helps out the podcast as well. A special thank you to all the Bigfoot Society Patreon and YouTube channel members. It's your support that helps keep the show going, and I extremely appreciate it. Here at Bigfoot Society, we're headed to the moon, and here's a current update about going full-time. So here we go. As of 5/22, we are now at 202 patrons out of 824 needed. That's 24.51%, almost a quarter of the way there, guys. Brings us down to 622 left to join the Patreon. So a huge thank you to Barbara, Gregory, Dana, Craig, Jeff, Steve, Ricky D, Norm, Megan, Dan, Daddy Chatty, Joe, Eber, Ike, Jules, Josh, Ryan, Todd, Nathan, Gabe, Bill, Lucky, Megan, William, Bobby Joe, and Inger for joining recently. If you want to join in the fun, you can join over at patreon.com/The Bigfoot Society. I'll see you there. And again, thanks for listening.
I can get on here and we can tell our stories. Maybe there's somebody else out there listening that's too afraid to tell their story. Maybe this will give them the courage to come out and not feel so bad about it. Who cares what anybody thinks? I know what I saw. I know what's out there. That's all I care about.
Please let people know. Please let them know. If you ever see one of these things, you need to tell. Because if you don't, then shame on you. You know? Shame on you.
Wait, there's more. Monster Fest 2 is coming up soon in beautiful Canton, Ohio, and I will be there doing a live podcast. If you've ever wanted to meet Bigfoot Society in person, this is the year to do it. My special guest in the live podcast episode will be Justin from Cryptids of the Corn. You will not want to miss this live episode. And then you can hang out with me at Monster Fest. You can go to smalltownmonsters.com to get your tickets. Pre-sale tickets are $20.50, and tickets at the door will be $25. But kids 12 and under are free. How many places can you go to where kids 12 and under are free? Not many. New this year are the live workshops. I'm excited about this. Extremely excited. How to cast a footprint. How to collect DNA in the woods. Ghost hunting tools 101. How to do research. Also, there's going to be food trucks outside this year, and new guests, new speakers, people you won't. I mean, the coolest thing about last year is that I got to meet people I was not expecting to be there. People like Les Odell, John Hickenbottom, really cool Bigfoot people that I never would have thought that I would have met before, and Seth Breedlove made it happen by making this incredible place for the community to get together. Monster Fest in Canton, Ohio, June 28th through 29th. Guys, do not miss this year. If you missed last year, don't miss this year. Head on over right now to smalltownmonsters.com. I hope to see you there.